Press record. So we're going to welcome everyone, call to order at 6:30 p.m. for the April 2021 general meeting of the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Associations. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm going to turn it over to First Vice President Mary Pelican to conduct the roll call. Mary?
Once again, good evening, everybody. And just a real quick thing, if you haven't already heard me say this, please do put your name and whatever civic association you're in the chat box so I can click you off the roll call. Meanwhile, I'm going to do the roll call for the board members right now. So let me get started. Michael Albetta.
Here.
Melinda Bauer. She'll be here. Louis Casilia.
Here. Here.
Okay. Jim Concannon.
Present.
Kathy Stubbs.
Here.
Colleen Lockwood.
Here.
Marilyn Manmano. No Marilyn? Okay. Barbara McGill.
Here. There. Okay.
Eloquent, here I am. Frankie Lane.
Here.
Good. And Dennis Ulmer.
Here.
All right. Everybody is here except for two. I'll keep an eye out for them.
Abby, you didn't call my name, Mary.
Oh, Abby. I'm sorry. Abby Laughlin.
Here.
Probably one of the most important people in my life.
Did you call me Helena Cooper?
This was just the board members.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's okay. But Helena, do tell me, do in the chat box, put what civic association you're with so I can make sure that I have you in all the bigger roll call. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Back to you, Colleen.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So normally we'd start with general membership updates. We don't have any updates this month for you. We will talk general membership kind of renewals when our wonderful treasurer goes through the treasurer report later on. So we're going to go straight to the introduction of our guests this month. So we have our two regular community leaders that come every month. I don't see Chris yet in the list of panelists. So Dr. JJ, if I could turn things over to you to kick us off, unless, is Chris here? Yes, he said he's gonna, Chris just texted he's gonna be later than usual. So JJ is our local Dr. Fauci, who gives us updates on all things COVID on a monthly basis, provides us all with the best advice and cuts through the clutter to help us stay safe. Dr. JJ, thank you all for joining us, and I'm going to turn the floor to you. I just will remind everyone respectfully to keep your microphones turned off while the presenters are speaking. Thank you, JJ.
Hi, thank you, Colleen. Thank you, members and panelists. As always, it's an honor to speak to you. Things right now have been kind of steady. Things got very quiet for a while as far as the numbers of COVID cases are concerned. Cases came up a little bit, but nothing very dramatic. Hard to tell as to why. I think it's probably multifactorial, especially the vaccination campaign, I think likely has had a major impact on that. If we look at the 65 plus group, I think most of my patients in that age group that want to be vaccinated have already been vaccinated. The at-risk group, which is younger, currently is actively being vaccinated. The question mark is going to be the younger people that have no major comorbidities. You know, when are the vaccinations for those people going to start? So right now, the trend is encouraging. Although when we look at the national trend this morning, they announced that 27 states have increasing number of cases. We cannot become complacent. We all know what's happening in Michigan right now. The caseload has gone up 8-fold. The CDC is recommending for Michigan to go into a statewide lockdown. We know that in New York, in some boroughs of New York, the cases have spiked as well. They have spiked over 50%. So that's concerning as well. So right now things look positive, but we know that in a matter of a few weeks, things can change rapidly. So I encourage people to continue being careful, people to be aware that this is not over yet, even though the numbers look better. I walked on Las Solas on Saturday night. I could not realize that there was COVID. I mean, it was hard to spot somebody with a mask on. That includes in restaurants, outside of restaurants, on the streets, walking around. Some people have the misperception that if they are vaccinated, that they are immune from COVID. The answer to that is no, you are not. The studies looked at reducing the severity of illness if you get the vaccine. That means that you're less likely to become severely ill, get hospitalized, or end up on a ventilator, or worse yet, die. But that does not preclude vaccinated people from getting COVID. I have some of my patients who have been vaccinated 2 months ago come down with COVID, but they were milder cases. The other stuff that we know is that the variants now are becoming more prominent. In South Florida, the original Wuhan strain is no longer going to be the preponderant strain. We know that the South African strain and the Brazilian strain, which is referred to as P1, are much more virulent. We know, for example, in Brazil, that you have lots of 30 and 40-year-olds that are being admitted to the hospital with no comorbidities. So we are by no means out of the woods yet. And that's what we know of so far. I'm sure that more mutations will happen. Just look at the annual flu, where we know that year by year we need to get re-immunized because there have been changes to the virus. This is unlikely going to be very different from that. So we need to be careful. A very common question that I'm sure somebody's going to ask, which vaccine is the best? It's a very simple answer. The one you can get in your arm. That is the best. As far as side effects, we just heard in the news this morning about the J&J vaccine where they hit the pause button. I think this is a mass backwards move, and I know it's being recorded, so it's going down in the records. We know that vaccines have side effects. 6 side effects out of 6, 7, 8 million doses administered is nothing. Your chances of being hit by lightning is 1 in a million. So this is, less likely to have a side effect from the vaccine than being hit by lightning, yet you don't see somebody pushing a pause button about walking outside when it rains. So I hope that this gets clarified quickly, that the vaccines get released again, especially a vaccine like J&J. It's a single dose, very easy to administer. For example, the rural areas where they do not have the special refrigeration needed for these other vaccines, it's not needed for this specific vaccine. So the rural areas may be hit disproportionately by pausing the J&J vaccine. It's also a single dose, so many people are looking forward to just requiring a single jab as opposed to 2 jabs, but we'll see.
It's wonderful, Dr. JJ. So if anyone has any questions for Dr. Rader, please put them in the chat. We already have our first question from Dr. Getz. Even if you are vaccinating but get a milder case of COVID, you still have about a 20% plus ? Chance of getting long-term COVID or longer COVID. I'm not sure what that means, if that's a different variant or what. Did that
So
sentence?
what he's referring to is long hauler syndrome. So
Got it.
what we know from people that have got COVID, that caught COVID, even asymptomatic COVID, I mean, they tested positive for COVID, they maybe had a little bit of a cough or runny nose, not even any significant fever, and they stayed home and quarantined and everything was peachy-dory. And then a month later, they can't breathe. They come in, you check their pulmonary function test and they have a 50% drop in their lung function. Or you check an EKG, they're bradycardic. Or you check their renal function and they have a 50% drop in their kidney function. And these were people that were fully asymptomatic, but got COVID. So the question becomes, what happens to people if they get COVID and they had the vaccine. It's really, we don't know yet. I mean, I have not seen much data to suggest that this is what's going to happen. We just don't know. But what we do know is that people will come down with COVID, notwithstanding being vaccinated, they will have milder disease. I think, looking at treatment for people who come back with positive COVID testing is still important, meaning to continue the research as far as medications like Tamiflu for influenza. There are some other drugs now being looked at for that, like monoclonal antibodies. The ivermectin stuff is still out there. I'm personally doing an additional study now. Finally got the funding, got some pharmaceutical company to assist with that, got a foundation to help sponsor it. So additional studies are going to be ongoing with that as well, but it's hard to tell. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be 20% of people becoming long haulers after the vaccine and they catch COVID, or if it's going to be higher or lower. But yes, there is a risk of that happening. J&J perfect for homeless people as one shot. Yes, but not only homeless people. In the inner city where you can only have one point of contact or one-time contact, I think it's very important to have that. Somebody shows up in the emergency department for an unrelated issue, that may be the only point of contact you have. You can vaccinate the person there. For example, on some Indian reservations where they do not have the freezers that are needed for these maintenance of these other vaccines, this one just need a regular refrigerator. So no special handling necessary. So that would be an important area. And I can frankly tell you, there are many of my patients that say, I prefer having one jab as opposed to two. So for those people that don't like needles, that's a good option as well. So, and more importantly, it's another option. It's an additional 10 million doses a month, 15 million doses a month that are becoming available to vaccinate people. Have you heard if vaccines may help long haulers? Is this true? There is evidence that may be true. The reason for that being is your body starts developing more antibodies. The antibodies can become more active and fight the inflammatory response. Once again, there is some suggestion that may be true, but there is no convincing data. Think about this for a second. Widespread vaccination has only started about 3-4 months ago. So we have only very, very limited data as far as long-term benefits are concerned. I mean, we know it helps, but the extent and the exact nature of that still will be to be determined.
Wonderful. So Dr. JJ, sounds like we're on the upswing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here on a regular basis. It just feels a lot calmer this month than last month already. Was the expected spike from post-spring break? Have you witnessed anything in terms of a spike from the visitors that were here?
In my specific practice in my hospital, I have not seen a major spike. At Baptist in Miami, they have seen a major spike. And Baptist usually is about South Miami is usually about 2 weeks, 3 weeks ahead of us. So we are entering that period right now. But once again, I have not seen a major spike at all. I expected it. Miami has seen it. We have not yet seen it. So that is encouraging. Maybe these people took their germs back home with them, and that would be very nice.
Okay, so thank you, JJ. We so appreciate you. Really appreciate you being here. We're going to move on. Chris is going to defer to be the last speaker for tonight. So I'm now honored. We have two wonderful presenters. The first of which is the head of a department at the City of Fort Lauderdale. And we're going to try to rotate and kind of profile and overview different departments within the city and have them provide an overview of initiatives, the big picture of their roles and responsibilities, and kind of just exciting things. And I will say this first month, we have Ben Rogers from Transportation and Mobility. He's the director. I believe he's been with the city since 2018. He's really impressed me as a wonderful leader. I'm really impressed with the department itself. Obviously, he has several members of his team here, including our beloved Karen Warfel, who everybody knows. So Ben, I'm going to turn the floor over to you to tell us all great things TAM, and your co-host in case you want to share slides. Thank you for joining us. And just Ben is going to be followed by Captain Galt from Fort Lauderdale Police. I forgot to mention he follows Ben. So we look forward to hearing from you, Captain, soon. So Ben, over to you.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate the invitation. I think that we have a lot of information to share, and I do have my team with us here today to do some introductions as well. I hope I don't get tough COVID questions over on the right side. If everyone can keep the questions nice and easy tonight, we'd appreciate that. So what I'm going to do is share a quick slideshow. It's 4 or 5 slides to walk through TAM as a department, some of the core functions that we serve, and then I'm going to turn over to Karen to talk about transportation planning and a lot of the changes that have happened in that division over the last 18 months. So let me share my screen real quick. All right, so the first thing, as we said, transportation mobility also goes by TAM. You can see the city organizational chart here. We report to Assistant City Manager Greg Chavaria, who reports to City Manager. And Greg oversees 3 departments: the IT department, which is internal, the DSD department, code enforcement, building services, and then transportation mobility. In transportation mobility, we have a lot of different focal areas, but as you can see on the screen here, maintenance of traffic, customer service, parking, transit, transportation are really the core ones. And so I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about some of the other services before Karen talks about, and primary focus tonight is on transportation planning. So maintenance of traffic, all right, that is anything that requires a detour in the city. So any kind of construction work, any kind of sidewalk closure, there's an application and a process that comes through my department. We work with the developers to mitigate traffic impacts as much as we can. And there are over 1,000 applications per year. Something important to note, though, is not everything comes from the city. We have multi-jurisdictions in the city, so we have state roads and we have county roads. And so each one of us have our own practice and process. We try to work hand in hand, but a lot of times if you see miscommunications, or you say, hey, why is this out here and this is over there? Doesn't anyone ever think through these issues? A lot of times it has to do with cross-jurisdictional issues. The last thing on maintenance of traffic, which I want to share, is there's a link here for Lauder Street. Lauder Street is a GIS map, and I hope that it will work here, going through the Zoom. But what it is every maintenance of traffic application that the city processes is a real-time map. So if you see a closure, you see someone blocking a lane, you see an issue in your area, you can go to Lauder Street. You can zoom in. It's very user interfaced, but when you click on it there, it has all of the, it's going really slow, I think, through the Zoom, but it has everything marked here. And then on the right-hand side, if you click on it, it will give you the detailed information. So it will tell you where
and it's not showing for us.
Oh, okay.
I think you have to unshare and then reshare.
Let's try that. Is that better?
Got it.
And that's why I brought Karen with me tonight, everyone. So when you're in Lauder Street, if you zoom in, you can zoom into different areas. And then on the right-hand side, it will show you the detailed information on the maintenance of traffic. So when it starts, when it ends, when they'll be out there, and there's accessibility tools, all types of resources on this. I can't scroll down on this, but more or less it will tell you all the information related to that project. So I know that our department gets a lot of questions, a lot of calls about road closures, about detours and impacts. And so we've created this site for an easy one-stop kind of shop. Let me switch my screen back. The second department that we're focusing on tonight is parking. So parking services has parking enforcement, parking operations, parking customer service. We do have 11,000 parking spaces that are managed by the city, and 75 employees that are dealing with the day-to-day operations. So any type of issue you have with parking, it would come to us. we've got a lot of initiatives going on right now. We just worked through COVID and had a lot of our policies flexed during that period of time, and we're starting to get back to, I don't know if you call it the old normal or the new normal, but we're in a transition phase right now to look forward to a post-COVID environment. Transit services, the community shuttle program, also known as the Sun Trolley, has had a lot of changes over the last year. We had some third-party management companies operating, and we made a decision last summer to transition that to internally to staff. So you're going to see a lot of things rolling out for those who use the community shuttle program. We should be getting new shuttles in the next 30 to 45 days. We're going to go through a rebranding, remarketing, and really just upgrade and refresh the services that we provide. The water trolley has been in the headlines lately. The water trolley service resumed after a year suspension due to COVID. So there are 8 stops on the New River. It's free service that the city provides. The water taxi is the operator at this time. And so I encourage you to go utilize those services. The Seabreeze Tram is something many might not be used to or aware of. The Seabreeze Tram was launched about a year and a half ago. And that Seabreeze Tram operates from the Los Olas parking garage out to the new Oceanside Park. So you can park in the garage, you can load up the tram with chairs and coolers or what have you, and take an easy trip over to the park and then walk across the street to the beach. The Seabreeze Tram was suspended during COVID as well, and we're in conversations right now of getting those operations back on service sometime in the next couple of months. And then on traffic operations, we do have some in-house engineers that work with our partner agencies at Broward County and FDOT to coordinate projects and to mitigate signal timing issues and traffic congestion. They also perform development review applications. So anytime a developer comes in and wants to build a building, they'll review the application and make sure that there's transportation friendly elements into it. So sidewalks, bike racks, transit connections, things like that. And then they also assist Karen's team with transportation projects and share that engineering lens. And so for the next portion, I'm going to turn over to Karen to talk about the MPO transition, and we'll introduce her new staff members. So Karen, why don't you take it from here?
Sure, and I'm gonna step back a bit for those who aren't familiar with our department to give a little context. Our department's fairly new in the realm of all the other departments in the city. We were developed after the citywide vision plan, the Fast Forward Fort Lauderdale 2035, where one of the priorities was to create a connected community where the pedestrian is first. So our main charge when we were established, and it's a fairly different concept for a lot of cities. There's not a lot of cities that have this multidisciplinary department working together on transportation items particularly. So we were really tasked to how do we create a more multimodal city where you can get around safely and efficiently for all modes, but really focusing on improving walking and biking, because traditionally that is something that's been left out in South Florida, not just our city, but overall. So we've been working over the past 9 years on creating more capacity. So the difference between us and Public Works is really focused on maintenance and utilities. We're focused on new things and new capacity. We've been able to build with our partners about, I think it was 35 miles of bike lanes and a bunch of sidewalks, new crosswalks, all those things from small to big that help get people around safer. Then, as Ben mentioned, we've gone through some transitioning because we are a newer department, learning and growing through that process. But most recently, we entered into an agreement with the MPO. About a year ago, they started, a little over a year ago, and they were helping us with our transportation planning services. We've since discontinued that contract with them in the new fiscal year due to some conflicts that arose with our eligibility for receiving surtax from the county. So after that, we've been able to grow our new department. One of the big things that we've learned from the MPO process was the district-based planning approach worked fantastically, where a planner is assigned to each district and they're the experts, they're the go-to person for each district. So we do have with us 2 of our newest planners that have started. Some of you have already been working with them. Shelby, I don't know if you want to say hi for District 4.
Hi everyone, I'm Shelby Rodriguez. I've met some of you so far. If I have not, it's nice to meet you virtually. I'm a transportation planner representing District 4.
And we have Judy here, who's representing District 2.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. And yes, I am representing District 2, and it's been great to meet all the people that I have met, and I look forward to meeting everybody that I haven't met yet. So please reach out anytime.
Right now, I am representing District 1, and then we have a new staff member who's been hired, who will be starting May 3rd, we anticipate, for representing District 3. So we're very excited to fill out our team again and grow that team. And then most important, we have Mitzi here, who really helps for those of you who have dealt with any of your transportation challenges, speed humps, signs down, things like that. She is the expert in getting those done. So Mitzi, I don't know if you want to say hello to folks. I saw her here.
Mitzi,
Mitzi,
you're
are
on,
you still on?
Mitzi, you're on mute.
There you are.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben. Good evening, all. So happy to be here, part of this meeting tonight. My name is Mixie Sanchez. I am a senior administrative assistant, and I help coordinate a lot of the service requests for the department, and that covers all of the districts.
She's super busy.
And Karen, real quick before you you continue on, I just want to let everyone know that Mitzi is a fantastic resource. She's been embedded with our customer service department for years, and most recently we've moved her, realigned her up into my office, so she reports to the director's office, and she's really becoming engaged and going to be a liaison with most of the HOAs. And we're starting some new initiatives and some new projects, and she's taking the lead on one of them. As you can see on the screen, we're starting to create a program where we can provide talking points to HOA and civic association leaders on a monthly basis. And it's a very pilot project at this point. We only have a handful of locations we're doing as we build it and get the infrastructure in place. But as you can see from the illustration, that monthly talking points document will have any kind of request that the HOA provides to TAM. I will also have any kind of Q alerts. And for those not familiar with the term Q alert, anything that comes into the city as an inquiry or a need or an ask, we put into a system, and it gets a Q alert number associated to it. So I know Mitzi's behind the scenes a lot. So I wanted to just introduce her and put a name and a face, because I think she works with a lot of you on a routine basis. Karen?
Yep, absolutely. So then in terms of the transportation planners, my team, what our process is we work on everything from meeting with you and understanding what your challenges are, from the small one street has an issue to the larger neighborhood master plans that we've done in the past, to even citywide transportation master plans. So we do a variety of things, corridor plans, like the current is Las Olas Boulevard Vision. So we manage those types of processes, but then we also work towards implementation. So for an example, with Lake Ridge, I saw Michael just posted a little hello. So we worked with Lake Ridge several years ago. They identified their challenges. And then since then, what we've been doing is identifying funding sources where we can implement some of those challenges, doing maybe some of the smaller things through Kuehler and Mitzi and our partners, working with the agency partners like DOT owns Sunrise and US 1 around there. How can we have them implement some of the items on their street? One of the instances is there's a new resurfacing project coming up. So we submit comments to the Department of Transportation about the neighborhood has asked for a new crossing on US 1. Is that something you can do? And then when those projects come into design and we're successful in the funding and getting them done, we are able to make sure that those design projects reflect what the neighborhood has asked us and said, as well as into the construction, and make sure that the residents are informed of projects and that they're aware of what's going on, and then that the design is actually happening the way we hoped. It doesn't always go as smoothly as we'd like. Similar to the MOT challenges and communication, sometimes we have some challenges, but we really do our best to get your voices heard with our partners and get those projects implemented. Those of you who know, it takes a long time to get projects done, especially at the state level, to get things programmed and Michael, and to get them done. So it's a 5-year process. So we're looking far out, but it does go faster than you think with the planning and implementation. So we're excited. We've been able to do a lot of great things in partnership with your neighborhoods because you are asking for them. I think that's the main what we do. I don't know if there's anything else, Ben, you wanted me to touch on.
No, I think that's good. I can go ahead and fast forward so we can take some questions. So one of the things that we've got going on right now is the commission did charge our department with some 2021 priorities. And so we've got about 6 or 7 tasks that were focal items for this year. And we do have a monthly report out called Lauder Track that our strategic communications will distribute. I think it's posted on the website as well. So those priorities I have listed here, I'll just give you a quick overview on a couple of them. So Breakers Avenue is out on the Barrier Island, runs parallel with A1A between Rio Mar and Vista Mar. And that's a complete redo of the street, taking undergrounding of utilities, improving the stormwater and underground utilities that are out there, and then putting a streetscape in place that reduces asphalt, it reduces the width of the roads, and becomes a more pedestrian focused destination area, sidewalk cafes, event space, and shade trees. So that one we're looking to hopefully break ground by the end of this year if we can just finalize our funding source, and we're moving forward on that. The Los Olas mobility plan, as Karen talked about, has been in the works for the last 24 months with the Los Olas mobility group. Right now we are waiting and working with our consultant to finalize the recommendation to identify the cost estimating and the potential construction sequencing. And right now we're looking at bringing it back to commission either the first or second meeting in May. And one of the reasons for the delay, because we were hoping to bring it back next week, is that once we get it finalized, we will post it on our website and share it with the community so they have time to review and digest before we go back to commission. One of the things that I've heard on this one is people are concerned about the timing and thinking that it goes directly from plan to construction. Unfortunately, that's not the case. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. We've got to figure out the financial methodology. So we'll be doing a financial methodology study to understand what it will take to get us across the line. Then we'll have to go into the design phase where all the details will really come out and see what's feasible, not feasible. We're also working with our public works team to figure out what capital improvement projects they have along the corridor. So that way we don't do our project and a year later they come through and have to rip it all up and put pipes in. So there's a lot going on with that, but the next public meeting would be either the first or second meeting in May. And then the surtax is probably the biggest item on here. We did receive or awarded some projects during cycle 1. Right now, we're finalizing all of the legal agreements and all of the documents that the county requires for us to get that funding for cycle 1. I'm hoping that will be completed sometime this summer, and that cycle 1 projects will put a shovel in the ground in the coming months. We just got instructions for cycle 2, and we will be going to commission next Tuesday with a list of projects that we will be recommending for surtax opportunities in cycle 2. The requirements for the surtax applications changed a little bit. And so we have to use stuff that has existing cost estimates from third parties. And Karen, I know you can probably speak to the devils better than I can, the details better than I can, but I think there's a handful of neighborhood master plans on there.
Yes, absolutely. Those are the things we're looking at. There's a pent up demand for projects with the county and people that have submitted stuff. So we're not sure in this next round how many projects are actually going to be funded, but we're submitting everything we can anyways, just to be on that list. And then more globally, for those people who have followed at the federal level, the new Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, is really looking like it's going to make a pretty transformational change in transportation projects and our ability to implement those smaller multimodal projects. He's really forward thinking and advocate. He was a mayor of a city, so he is really pushing for safety projects and different things. So what we've heard is get your projects ready, because there's going to be money that comes down in the next 4 years. So we're trying to get everything we can ready that we've heard that's in a place, and then move forward other projects as well. One thing while I have the mic is that I didn't mention is now that we are doing district-based planning and we have a more dedicated staff to those individual districts, I am asking my staff and myself to be more proactive in getting out to the neighborhoods. You know, we hear from you, but I want to get out, and ones we haven't heard from, people we haven't heard from, working more closely with you to understand what your challenges are. So we have a more wide range list of needs when funding becomes available.
And so Colleen, I think that wraps up our presentation. I do have to sneak one thing in here I didn't have. For those who have requested traffic studies, all right, for stop sign warrants, for speed and volume, for speed humps, for whatever the reason you've put in a request, the county did suspend speed and volume studies during COVID. And so we've got an extremely long list right now that we're working through. The county has started resuming the speed and volume studies. Mitzi's the point of contact. So if anyone has any questions on where it is or what the priority is or how we can expedite something, please reach out to Mitzi. But we do have the list. We have everything organized in a way that we think is the most fair and equitable across the city. But unfortunately, when you stop doing services for a year, you do get backlog. So we are working with the county on getting caught up. But if you have any concerns about any pending requests, please let us know.
Wonderful. So great presentation. I'm going to suggest we've got some questions in the chat. If you have a question for your specific neighborhood, if I could encourage you to follow up with your specific district rep, and that we could kind of orient tonight's questions that are relevant to citywide interest, right? So there is a question about Las Olas, which is really, something we all are familiar with, but the idea of pedestrians on the weekends, I'm sure this has been brought up, not just there, but on A1A. I think that was a question from Dr. JJ about allowing only pedestrians on the weekend. Why is that not feasible, or is it possible? What are the thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll take the long-term answer, and then I'll give, because that's easier, and then I'll give Karen the short-term answer, which is a little bit more difficult. So on the long-term one with the Los Olas mobility plan, the way that we've designed this or planned it out, it actually increases sidewalk and pedestrian space by over, I think, 210 or 260%. So with the future state of Los Olas, you'll see much wider sidewalks, much more pedestrian and bicycle friendly environments. I don't know, Carolyn, in the short term, if you have any comments on balancing the needs.
No, I mean, we've done some of that before, not every weekend. I know there's been a lot of conversation about Las Olas and in the historic shops area, closing that area for pedestrians. I'm not sure what the business owners, I don't know if Ben, if you have talked to them in full closures and what the appetite is for that.
Yeah,
I think it's,
I was gonna say during COVID, when we did block off the parking lane, we did have a lot of pushback on access for pickup and deliveries and ride shares and operational issues, but that shouldn't preclude us from the long-term understanding of making it more pedestrian friendly.
Okay, and there's another question. I think this is a question that's often asked, right? Are the traffic lights synced? Could they be? Are we especially challenged in any one part of the city? I know that corner around Sunrise is often discussed. And I think that when will traffic lights be synced was the specific question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So all the signals are coordinated by the county. And we do have liaisons that work with them on a regular basis. I can tell you that as part of the surtax funds, there's really 2 pots of money or 3 pots of money for the surtax. The county has a big pot that they keep for county initiatives, and then a portion goes to support community shuttle programs, and then 10% goes to all 31 municipalities. So we're fighting for that 10% for all of our initiatives. But in the big pot of money for the county projects, they do have, I think, 3 or 4 major corridors in the city of Fort Lauderdale where they're going to be bringing smarter technology in for the signalization. I think it's Sunrise, Davie, Broward, and 17th. I think those are the 4 areas that we have coming to us. And I think that they're sequenced a year apart for each one. But a lot of the signal we have to put the trust in Broward County traffic engineering to implement and maintain.
Okay, so wonderful. So I think Donna put this well, and I'm just going to turn this around a little bit. Her question was about getting the county to play better in the sandbox, and it's not just the county. We're talking the state. So I just want to say this. It's so wonderful to see faces and hear from the individuals and all the great work that you're doing. So thank you for that. And I think it's important to appreciate the way that you do the work that you do, that there's a very clear spirit of collaboration, which is essential for the work that you do. A sidewalk starts in one neighborhood, ends in another, and highways are crossing major arteries of multiple neighborhoods. So we know that the work you do requires multiple agencies. They are long-term in nature, and yet you're still serving the needs of each of our residents in our community in such a stellar way. So truly, truly hats off to you. I think there are some questions about when dates are coming up for projects, when they come before the commission. I think we can probably look at the website and keep track of that, right? If you know about dates for the specific projects. Are you guys sending out updates in addition to the packages for the HOAs? Are you sending out regular updates because we heard about Broward Boulevard now being open again. So we are hearing about those things, right?
So what we've been trying to do with the district planners is have them be your point of connection, and having them, whenever we get notice from DOT or the county, we make sure to send it to all the HOA presidents that are impacted by those projects. And then as well as once we get more on board for the document that Mitzi's putting together of everything, those project updates will be in each of those as well, the bigger county and state projects.
Okay, wonderful. And we did have a question, and I don't know how long a conversation this is, but I think this is also one of those cross community questions about Lauder Trail, how that project's coming along, where it stands, et cetera. Could you do a 10-second, 15-second on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lauder Trail is moving forward. In January, we entered into an agreement with the Path Foundation to do a master plan for the city. The Path Foundation is a nonprofit out of Atlanta. They've done hundreds of miles of trail systems in Georgia, and in Florida they did the Emerald Trail up in Jacksonville. And so we're working with them right now. They made a site visit down last month and did some bike tours and created a stakeholder group, a focus group to really help drive the plan. And so right now, we're about a month into the plan, but we're looking at having the plan delivered to us in October or November of this year. And part of that plan is to implement a pilot segment to kind of show proof and concept and get it going. And we do have some park bond money to allow that to happen.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. So we could go on. I just got messaged about the shuttle extending from its current boundaries. I kind of looked at that as a specific neighborhood question, but that's valid. The idea of extending boundaries for some of these local transit options, is that in the cards?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now is a perfect time. If you want to reach out to any of us and talk through it. Broward County actually just gave us some instructions on how to apply for future year funds for our community shuttle program. To be fully transparent, I haven't gone through it in depth and detail, so I don't know what it says and how likely it would be. But I think we have until the end of May to submit applications to Broward County for new routes.
Okay, so Luis, Abby, Michael, all of my D2 brethren in that area, let's get together and talk about that. That's great. So we could talk all day with you guys. I hope you will come back. I hope you will stay in touch. I want to thank Ben and Karen and Judy and Shelby and Mixty and the District 4 rep. There's been a request to put contact information in the chat if we have that. Am I missing anyone from your beautiful team? Thank you all so much. Show the love in the chat, everybody, and we'll move on. I really, really appreciate your overview. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so it's now my privilege to introduce Captain Glenn Galt. And I just want to suggest to everybody that you do stick around. We are going back to neighborhood round robins this month. And if you have not experienced neighborhood round robins in person, I assure you it's worth the wait. They're very, very entertaining. So Captain Galt is joining us tonight to talk about auto prevention theft initiatives within Fort Lauderdale Police. Sir, thank you for your service and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Do you have slides, by the way?
I do not.
Okay, okay, great.
So thanks, Colleen, and to the board for the time this evening to present. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Captain Glenn Galt. I run our street crimes division here at the police department, and we need the community's help with a specific crime problem. And that crime problem is auto theft. And when we're talking about auto theft, these are organized groups that started to emerge after the lockdown lifted last summer. And although 2020 was another record low year in terms of overall crime, we did have some specific crimes where those crimes went up. And one of those areas was auto theft. We had a 7% increase last year. And this is an auto theft for joyriding. Again, these are organized groups that are committing these thefts. They steal the car, usually high-end ones, that they sell to another bad guy, who then rebins the car and then resells it. So this is big business. But probably the most important thing about this crime pattern is that it's completely preventable, because the bad guys are looking for cars with fobs and keys left inside. So if all of our neighbors don't leave their fobs and their keys in their car, then we don't have a crime. So in the beginning of the year, our team met on ways on how we could reduce the auto theft problem in the city. And we came up with a pretty comprehensive plan to address it. We initiated the plan in February and kicked off, as part of that plan, our Where's Your Fob campaign. I don't know if everybody's had the opportunity to see the video that we put together. It's on our website at flpd.org if you haven't seen it. I'm sure you've seen the signs in your communities trying to remind people about where's your fob. And also in February, our detectives arrested 3 different organized groups, a total of 10 felony arrests of groups that were committing auto thefts in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Actually, not just in the city of Fort Lauderdale, but in other communities as well. Although we haven't closely evaluated the numbers just yet, we feel like we're having success with the campaign so far. Our numbers are definitely down, but we really want our neighbors to double down on making sure that they're doing their part to prevent these crimes by securing their fobs, securing their keys, talking to their neighbors about these issues. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to one of my detectives, Detective Timothy Shields, who along with his team members are the boots on the ground who've had considerable success tracking down and arresting the various groups committing these auto thefts in our community.
Hi, good evening. I just want to additionally say thank you for having us and taking the time to let us come speak with you guys. I'm very fortunate to have my chain of command. Captain Galt has included me on some of our meetings and some of our visions and our plans for 2021. And these individuals are targeting these high-end neighborhoods. They're targeting these high-end vehicles where the key fobs are left behind. What they're doing is they're riding around in groups of guys in cars, sometimes multiple cars, and they're cruising your neighborhoods looking for these vehicles that have the mirrors tucked out or that are not tucked in. And that allows them to come up to your property and see that's more than likely that means your car's left unsecured. They're going to come try it, and they'll steal that car. They've been lately bold enough and brazen enough to enter garages that may have been left open overnight, or if maybe somebody kicks their garage down, it doesn't go down all the way with the sensor. And they're actually going inside residences now to steal these cars, which is very alarming. These groups that we follow them on social media. We do know that they are armed. There's been several occasions where these guys are riding around in the stolen cars, bragging and showing off their handguns that they're possessing. So it's really a big problem that we feel could come violent. And what we're trying to do is really get the community's help to spread the word, get the awareness out there to help us take these key fobs in. It's going to be a huge benefit to us police-wise. We're still going to be in your neighborhoods patrolling, but if we can get the word spread that we can get these key fobs in, it's going to be a huge success for us. Like the captain said, this is an awareness problem, that if we get the awareness out there and people help us and the community can help us and we can spread the word, that we'll have great success. These are not just kids joyriding. These aren't kids just going out for a couple hours, taking a car and parking it. Like the captain said, it's the business, and the cars are being flipped over. They're sold on the street, and it's become a very big business. We've had some success. Like the captain noted, we don't have the exact numbers, but the numbers are down drastically. You guys have seen our signs and the campaigns kicked off. There was a big media release that helped. And those are all things that we're going to rely on you guys. These homeowners meetings for us are huge. You guys allowing us to come here to speak to you, which is only going to help spread the word to our community to keep our community safer. Camera systems, your home systems are huge. When they do get a car, they do come in prowling, it'll allow us to get some suspect information, vehicle description, tag number. For some of your neighborhoods that have your camera systems, make sure that they're working. We have a couple high-end neighborhoods here that their camera systems are very outdated and not working. It's not much to improve those, but that helps us drastically identify suspects and helps us further our cases. Also, I had a situation. My kids play baseball in the city here. I was over at Holiday Park, and my son is a car guru. He's 7 years old. He sees this Rolls-Royce SUV parked up. So we go look at it, and he wants to stare, and he wanted to see inside. So I lift him up to look in the windows, and sure enough, the car's unlocked, and the key fob is right in the center console. This is a car that starts out at $350,000. So we went to find the owner, and I introduced myself, and his first thought was, no biggie. And I said, I appreciate the fact that you think that, but this is a bigger problem. And what happens is when that car gets stolen, and these are things for you guys to think about so we don't spread the word, when that car gets stolen, it's phoned in the police. And some of our marked patrol guys get behind it, and the car flees at 100 miles an hour and kills a family of 3 that are leaving Holiday Park, then it becomes a real problem. So I explained that to him, and he didn't understand that. And then after speaking, he was very appreciative. So those are some of the things that we deal with, and those are some of the bigger picture things. Sure, it's a property crime. However, it's a much larger thing. And if we can spread the word to get your guys' help, that we can get these fobs, and I truly believe we can cut auto theft down 90% if we just take the fobs inside and we spread the word. So those are just a couple of things that we've done. As you guys see the signs, although we've really posted a lot of them, I think it's really driving the message home. I think that's a big thing for us. It's been a big part of our success, and we just hope that through you guys that we can rely on you guys to help us spread the word and really get it out there. We really want to make this problem go away, and I just want to say thank you for your guys' time.
Thank you so much, Detective and Captain. That's really eye-opening, the downstream implications. I think we consider folks who leave their cars unlocked with the keys in, just, it's kind of their issue, but you're right, it belongs to all of us. So it's very important. Folks who want to reach out to you to have you present to their HOA or want a sign for their neighborhood, who should we put them in touch with?
You can have them contact me. I'll give you my cell phone directly. You guys can call it at any time. If you see something out there that may not warrant a 911 call that may be followed up, this is my personal cell phone. You could call me. If you need signs, I'll be more than happy to bring them to you. And if we can keep the communication open, that'd be great. My cell phone is 954-297-6504.
Wonderful. And we did have one question for you. What is the punishment for the thieves that you arrest?
Well, that all varies. That is not up to our building. That's another issue that comes over. A lot of times we're seeing some of these kids are juveniles, so obviously they have to go through the juvenile system. We have seen them where they're out on 3 active cases. We're working closely with the state attorney's office to make sure that those cases are not slipping through the cracks. If they've got multiple cases, we're going to try and get them in a speedy trial in front of the judge and make them aware. They can be sent to programs. Adults, it's auto theft's a second-degree felony. Which could be punishable up to 5 years, but depending on their criminal history, could be much higher. If there's weapons implied, it could be much greater. So we're doing our job here, and we're communicating with them to try and help them assist us. So.
Thank you so much. And we've asked for Detective for you to repeat your full name, please.
Yep, my first name is Tim, T-I-M, and my last name is Shields, S-H-I-E-L-D-S. And again, 954-297-6504.
Wonderful. So yeah, with a name like that, it was great you ended up in law enforcement, right? So
Yes, ma'am, I heard that.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So, do we, the captain wants to know, do you guys want us to stick around for the other parts of the agenda?
You're welcome to stay. You're always welcome to be here and always welcome to be a part of. We encourage that. We love that. So yes, absolutely. And people can, everyone feel free to chat with Detective Shields and Captain Galt in the chat if you'd like to continue the conversation directly with them. So we appreciate your service and thank you for keeping us safe. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you for having us.
Colleen, can I just add one thing? This is Karen. Not just where your key fob is, but where your spouse's key fob is, and making sure that they don't leave their copy of your car key fob in their car and forget to lock it. So it's not just about knowing where yours are.
Good point. Thank you so much. So we are now joined by the wonderful city manager, Chris Lagerbloom. It's so great to have you here, Chris. Thank you for coming from whatever emergency you were attending to. We're going to turn the floor over to you to provide the wonderful city updates that you always do. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Of course. So good evening, everybody, and hard acts to follow there. You had two of the best in our police department there update you on what we're seeing in the crime world. You know, the captain keeps a real good eye on things, and I've never seen anything like Tim's ability to sniff out crime. People told me when I got here, just follow that guy around and it'll find him. And there seems to be some truth in that. Like if a bank gets robbed, somehow Tim turns the corner and there's the bank robber. And I don't know how he does it, but he's always seems to be at the right place at the right time. So definitely a major benefit to our city and to our department. So lots going on. And so I'll give a quick update and then I'll take questions like I usually do. Anything is, excuse me, anything is on the table. Life goes on, April the 13th, working our way towards the middle of the month and then into our summer months. So let me report real quickly on spring break. It looks as though that the main crux of spring break is starting to wind down. We did have fairly decent crowds this year in the city. That was good for the hotels, good for the restaurants. Seemed to be a very safe environment. We were ultra protective to make sure that our beach did not turn into the images we were seeing on the television in Miami Beach, and that we had a good family-friendly environment for those that chose to visit in Fort Lauderdale and call this their place for a vacation this spring. So respectful crowds, worked well with our public safety responders, as well as Parks and Rec and others that make spring break a success. Probably overall crowds were a little bit lighter than usual, but certainly a noticeable uptick out at the beach, and that seems to be now wrapping up and coming to an end. As your city departments, we've begun, believe it or not, we've begun the process of building our next year's fiscal year budget. And I know I talk about money a lot. Money, it's something I watch every day on your behalf and make sure that we run the city efficiently and in a place that we don't have to worry about whether or not we are solvent and whether or not we can pay our bills. And, it always is mind-boggling to me that we start in April for an October 1 kickoff, but we have spent some significant time here lately working on that. I do want to say that, the police department in Fort Lauderdale never ceases to amaze me with their talents and their abilities at striking the right posture between us and the community and being good resources, being thoughtful in their response. And no bigger event than spring break to see how we can have that many people at the beach and have good interactions with our law enforcement officers. Today, Colleen mentioned, dealing with something in real time. And it's great that we've already started to plan for it, but it does make some sense. The U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of Florida reached out to us and wanted a conversation just to start a dialogue as to what happens as we get a verdict out of Minnesota in the Chauvin case and the George Floyd case. You know, there's no way to predict what that case is going to do. We have a court for a reason, and that's why it's going through that process. But I'm a firm believer that that which plays out in other parts of the United States plays out in stages around the United States. And Fort Lauderdale is big enough that we need to at least give that some thought before we all of a sudden hear what that verdict is and then are trying to react with our community. I pray for and I hope for a peaceful response to whatever that verdict is, recognizing that you know, collectively in Fort Lauderdale we are we're leaders in that space, and we're leaders in professional policing, that of the 21st century, and you know, we've got just the best talent that you could hope for in our department, and I want them to all know that we, even through this time, whatever this time looks like for law enforcement in the nation, that we support their efforts. So I want to go on the record and say that. With respect to COVID, it's still around, but our numbers are looking better. I don't know if JJ talked tonight or not, but we're doing a lot of vaccinations every day in our 2 sites. No indication that the supply is going to decrease or slow down. In fact, it's only looking as though when it starts to ramp up, that we will hopefully offer more at the Lockhart site as they are able to increase their supply. I got to tell you, I've had my second one as recent as last Friday. Everything they've told you about the second one, maybe not being as friendly as the first one, although my first one wasn't friendly either. So maybe JJ can give me some guidance on that, but it seemed like I went through COVID again 2 more times. It just happened in 36 hours instead of 5 days, but it even seemed like it happened in the same sequence. So I guess people have said that that's a good thing, and that means that the vaccine actually worked. And so still major encouragement for those to go out and get that vaccine. My 16-year-old went with me last Friday, so they became eligible, and you know, teens just as important as adults, and it's there now, and that's going to be the opportunity for us. I hope to recover and start back to something that resembles normal. Good things going on in the city. Not a lot of controversy on next Tuesday's agenda. Of course, I just jinxed myself. The biggest thing that's coming up next Tuesday is it looks as though all of the items necessary to allow the Suntex Marina to move forward are coming forward, and that's been a long time in the making. So look for that next Tuesday. Other than that, fairly straightforward, some special events, some contracts, purchase items. As I went through that agenda earlier today, nothing screamed to me to be too terribly controversial in the world of some of the items that we have that bring controversy with them. Important this weekend, the home opener for our Inter-Miami soccer team. We hoped that that was going to happen a year ago, as that stadium was built up in District 1 at Lockhart Park. And they bring this weekend, this is a little of a nuance here, and so I'll share it with the group. If you're ever asked in a Trivial Pursuit game at some point later, we're sharing our stadium right now with a Canadian team. And the Canadian team is here because the transition over the border is not the easiest with the COVID pandemic going on. So there's actually a home opener for a Canadian team in our stadium on Saturday this week. And our home team home opener doesn't happen until Sunday. So at some point, the question will be out there to say, what was the first home opener in Inter-Miami's now named Drive Pink Stadium before Inter-Miami had their home opener? And so the answer to that question will be Montreal. And so the stadium should come to life this weekend and see 25% occupancy. There should be about 8,000 people in the stands. That's the anticipated crowd for the first 3 games, and then it will hopefully expand from there as we get more clear guidance and more relaxing of crowd restrictions. With that, I know I came late to the game tonight. I apologize, but I appreciate you having me late. Have there been any questions in the chat box, or is there any questions that anybody would have on anything Fort Lauderdale?
I emailed you a couple of a little bit ago, Chris. Just
Okay.
the one-stop shop keeps coming up, right?
Sure.
And the idea is that Can that be put out for competitive bid as opposed to only looking at one proposal? And then the other question that kind of arose around that conversation at our board meeting was ordinance impact fees. The way they work now is they get collected, but they don't necessarily get allocated back, at least centrally, to the site that generated the fees to begin with. They're not benefiting from the fees that get collected for their particular neighborhood. So I don't know if you have just a rough, quick summary of One Stop and where it's going and how it's going, if you could share that.
Yeah, I sure can. I think I can take both of those on, actually. So the one-stop shop, obviously the city's in receipt of an unsolicited proposal for the one-stop shop. This, I'm going to tell you where the commission is on it, or where they've taken action and what the next steps potentially are. So when an unsolicited proposal comes in, it's reviewed by us for sufficiency to meet conformance with the statute. And the statute is found in a very specific Florida statute that was recently adopted. And many of you have heard me say this before, but it was adopted to allow government to be nimble and quick and end up with good public purpose projects that they otherwise wouldn't be able to latch onto because of what seems to be fairly bureaucratic procurement processes in government. And so there are certain criteria that have to be met, and if they're met, then it's considered a qualified project. And then it's considered by the elected body as to whether or not it wants to move, they want it to move forward. If they choose that they want to accept it and move it forward, they define a period of time in which other projects can compete against it. So there is a level of competition even in an unsolicited proposal. This commission did adopt a resolution and said that we want to move forward with this one-stop shop proposal, albeit fairly conceptual. It did meet what they wanted to move forward with at the time, and they adopted that resolution and had that period of time for it to be competed against. We did all the advertising, that time came and has gone. It received no competing projects. And so right now where that unsolicited proposal is waiting for a draft of either an interim or a comprehensive agreement, which would then govern our relationship with that proposer through the development and operation of the site. Certainly that can be sidetracked at any point. The state statute is very clear that the government at any point is under no obligation to continue in the process, as is the proposer required to continue if in fact they want to withdraw. The further we move along in the proposal, I can say that I think that there's additional, albeit not huge, risk that attaches to the city, because those that make the proposer, if the commission says, yes, we want to move forward, they make some additional planning steps in with those assurances that the commission has given them. And that typically equates to dollars invested. And at some point they could potentially argue that we led them along up to the point that they spent a bunch of money and then we just told them no. That there is some risk that comes along with being the proposer as well. So if the project moves forward in that path, then the next thing you all will see is a comprehensive or an interim agreement come before the city commission. There is no way for the project in its current state to move forward without further commission action. So don't think that all of a sudden it's just gonna get going and keep going and that there's not an opportunity for the public to weigh in. If in fact at some point the commission says, okay, we don't like that unsolicited proposal anymore, we think we need to go a different direction, or we need to go a competitive solicitation because we want to define the scope, then that's certainly something that the commission could do at any point. And so right now, if you're interested in that parcel and you really have passionate feedback about it, the feedback would be best given to the commission when either the interim or comprehensive agreement comes forward in a public forum, or along the way, if you just encourage them to advocate to go a different direction. I see in the chat box, it says, what is the proposal? I can summarize generally that it is a combination of park space, but improved in certain areas to include things that a hall that would benefit the arts, food and culture, food hall, music venue, that type of environment. So it is in many respects retained as green space, but it is, the proposal does show that it is improved with that type of an art / food / music venue. That That was the first question, and how quickly I have forgotten that I said I could take both of them. Colleen, what was the second question that you
The
had?
structure of the current ordinance impact fee.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so we have a current park impact fee ordinance. That was it modified in the last legislative session or two, where now there's some specific guidance that says that the impact fees have to be utilized in the area in which they're collected. That's the first time the state has ever weighed in to say, okay, you don't have a blank canvas. And if you collect the impact fee in Flagler Village, there has to be some direct nexus to Flagler Village for the use of that impact fee. There's not clear court guidance on that yet. And in fact, a couple of cases that have been out there that I'm not relying upon completely, although they do provide some guidance, but I'm not taking it to the bank that they're gospel, would suggest that there's a certain distance requirement as to what this nexus would be. And candidly, that distance requirement is bigger than any distance we can get to in Fort Lauderdale, which would suggest that if it was collected in the southwest corner of the city, that distance requirement would still be met if it was used in the northeast corner of the cities. And I'm not sure that's what was intended in the legislation that was brought forward. So there's always the letter of what was brought forward. There's always the spirit of what was brought forward. There's always is it so ambiguous that nobody could have anticipated it to mean that anyway, and it should be interpreted other ways. So more guidance on that in the future. I'm taking it from the perspective at this point, if you want to know what's floating around in Chris's head, that if we have only one of them, for example, in the city, that then, impact fees could funnel into the one thing that we have. If it relates to the parks, but if we have multiples of them, that there has to be some regional proximity. Let me put that into real world terms. So we only have one aquatic center, and it happens to be out on Seabreeze at the beach, and therefore new and enhanced and improved expansion of the aquatic center, I think, is ripe for insertion of impact where that they're collected in the city. But if we're building or trying to maintain and enhance and expand a local community park, that there needs to be a direct nexus to the park that's being improved with where the impact fee is collected. The commission at their last meeting, just on that topic, moved forward with a budget amendment that inserted some impact fees into the development of DC Alexander Park. That is the park that is on the seaward side of the aquatic center between Seabreeze and A1A. That park, as many of you know, was designed by the CRA to become shovel ready. We just now need to have the funds in place to be able to build it, and we move forward with that. So changing along the way, but I think it's good that there's some guidance now that says that the impact fee has to be used in the area similarly situated to where it was collected.
Wonderful. So it's heading in the right direction. So 2 more questions about One Stop. As the developer sent in all the deliverables, the last we heard, we haven't really seen an updated design. There's a concern that that's really going to become a concert venue. And I'll throw in my question, which is this. We've had one unsolicited bid for one of the hottest areas of our city, right? Why isn't there more interest from other parties? I mean, how do we cultivate more interest to get more proposals? Because it's one thing for the public to stand up against the existing one. But I think the real question is, how do we get more interest from other developers or other park people or whatever? It just seems like that would be such a hot opportunity for the right partnership.
Right. So, yeah, I've got to back up a little bit to be able to answer that question, I think, sufficiently. So when it came in as an unsolicited proposal, it came in as an arts venue, food venue, music hall. And so when we put it out to competitive solicitation, it goes out and says, the city commission has decided to move forward with an arts, food, and music hall. If you would like to submit a competing project to an arts, music, and food hall, this is the period of time to do that. So it narrowly focused the type of competition that we were looking for because it defined what the proposing project was. No different than when Inter Miami came in with their soccer stadium proposal and we put that out for competing bids. The one thing that we got that competed with it was a different soccer proposal. It wasn't a water park. It wasn't a football stadium. It was a competing soccer proposal. And so just because there wasn't competition to the unsolicited proposal doesn't mean that I don't think that if we were to define a scope of work and go through the traditional charrette format, that we would go through and seek input and come up with concepts, and then we write our own scope of work and go to the market and say, okay, world, here's what we want. I do believe that we would have had probably some additional competition in that format, but that doesn't necessarily really even strike at the core of what the issue is here necessarily, because I think there's definitely some that just want it to remain open green space. And, that comes along with a picket fence and the irrigation system. And the, retention of the trees that are there and the preservation of downtown green space. So, there's a lot of different ways we can go here. Thankfully, this is why I have 5 great elected officials that can give me some of their policy guidance, because where 3 of them want to go, I think is a really great idea. We'll see how that all shakes out. But the good news for those that are thinking, gosh, this is just a runaway train and not any way to provide input, there's several more steps of commission action that have to happen before anything is moving forward. I'll tell you, I've seen the unsolicited proposal. I guess still I'm not at liberty to discuss it in great detail because it is not subject to disclosure from my mouth. And I typically don't like to do those disclosures on meetings where I've got lots of ears and it's being recorded. So I'll shy away from that, but to say what was proposed conceptually was a very nice design. Now, whether or not that's the right thing for that site, that's something that we'll have to look to our commission to say, yep, that's the right policy thing for us moving forward, or we want to go a different direction. I'm ready and nimble to go with whatever direction they want to go.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time. There's no final decisions being made in the near term. We've got plenty of opportunity for public input. Charrettes are a possibility. They refine scope of work depending on what we get from the developer. So everyone, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to, there is time, and please hear that there's time. There's opportunity for it to appear publicly, but I don't want you to think that we have time until the fall. I think the time is coming in this next little bit before the commission goes on their summer break. So I would stay in tune to the topic if it matters to you.
Okay, so we'll take this offline as a board and talk about our next steps in terms of response. Thank you very much. I don't think any of us have seen the updated proposal, so it'd be good to see that. And we do have to kind of stay on track, folks. So thank you for that update on One Stop Shop. If anybody has any other questions for Chris on One Stop Shop, please put them in the chat so he can respond there, if you don't mind, Chris. And Brucey is asking about Bahia Mar. Could you do a real quick update on that?
I can, yeah, as long as you're ready to have your meeting go till about 9:15. We have to talk about Bahia Mar. And so, yeah, I'll do it quickly. Obviously, that discussion was in front of the commission at a conference meeting here very, very recently. We saw where the commission sort of lined themselves up. At the end of the discussion, it was really given to 2 of our elected officials, both the mayor and Commissioner Glassman, to continue to have some discussions with the developer at that site to see if there was a better site plan that could be brought forward. Having the district commissioner and the mayor being the front people to have those discussions is a good thing, in my opinion, because it's the ones that represent the people closest to the Bahia Mar. Right now, they continue to have an approved site plan in hand. It allows for certain development, is entitled to certain development rights, and they could begin that process tomorrow. My understanding is that development is not desirous of their business plan at this point, and whether or not that's our issue or not is certainly subject to debate. I don't know that it necessarily is, but I also know that some of the commission has indicated that they believe that they don't want to just watch that property sit around for 43 more years in its current state, and if there's an opportunity to do something better with it, that's a good place to be. So again, that's a topic that before it gets any legs to go anywhere other than what it currently is. And so we all know what it currently is. If it stays what it currently is, then it can just continue to function the way it is, and they can either pull building permits or not. And if it doesn't, then it'll certainly have to come before the city commission. I see Brucey's asking me what I think about it. I can tell you what I honestly think about it is it's very complicated, and it is like the third rail in Fort Lauderdale politics on a train. And if you grab it, you sizzle a little bit. So you know, I stay in that place that I am most comfortable, and that's leading the city from an operational perspective day to day, and deferring to the fine commissioners for their policy, vision, and direction. So I like it if they like it, but at the end of the day, ultimately, it's their call.
Wonderful, Chris. And Janice had asked this question prior, and it's about vacancies in the police department and how is recruitment going and how does that process work? Just very briefly on what we're doing in the interim period of time right now.
Yeah. So I'll touch on a couple different topics. We're making great progress, and you all are going to see the fruits of that work here very soon in the selection of a permanent police chief. We'll ask to come to this group in a forum to meet with some of the candidates here in probably the next 45 days or so. I can tell you that having a preview of the process, that there's some very talented people that have indicated their desire to choose Fort Lauderdale as a organization in which they would want to be the law enforcement leader. We are actively working on filling some vacancies in the police department, and more importantly, bringing the detention officer program that we talked about on board so that we could start to eliminate some of the overtime costs in the police department and switch those into almost a career succession plan type program to bring people in that might not meet some of our minimum requirements today, who eventually want to be a police officer, and allow them to meet those minimum requirements while they're still gainfully employed and working with our organization. One of the key focuses that I have right now in both our public safety departments is to increase our diversity component in both of those departments to more closely align with the community that we serve. We are very, very mindful of the fact that you know, we need to have a balanced police and fire department, candidly, is where I really have put some effort into making sure that we are looking at filling vacancies proactively to match the very diverse community that Fort Lauderdale is, and the one that we appreciate that it is. So we do have some vacancies, but we are actively working to fill those. I'll tell you, it's a tough time in the United States to go out and recruit police officers. And I mean, I think we need to say that and recognize that, because I'll go turn on the TV here in just a second, and you know, there will be a law enforcement agency under some form of attack somewhere in the United States almost consistently. And you know, here recently we saw the television impacts of an Army lieutenant sprayed with pepper spray, and wonder what was the background behind that. And you know, we see a police officer with what thinks is a taser, and all of a sudden ends up shooting somebody, and then we have city managers fired and all sorts of turmoil in other cities. And you know, we're going to see this trial in Minnesota come to an end, and where it comes to an end is pivotal in the law enforcement world. And I take all that's out there in the TV, and then I balance that. And you know, this is certainly never a video that will come to, you know, a public forum like this, but I watch a video of our law enforcement officers, our Fort Lauderdale police officers, responding to a shooting in the community last weekend, and literally go beyond a line of people that have guns now at their backs to extract a young girl who's been shot in a crossfire, to apply tourniquets and blood clotting things to essentially save her life in the middle of this terrible event. And that happens more often than I think any of us realize. And unfortunately, when we turn on the TV, we see the bad pepper spray events, and we see the taser, oh gosh, that wasn't a taser event. And we see the horrific events that happened in Minnesota that now are being tried in the criminal court system. And we see some of the crime that we've got to get a hold of in our own city in the form of
gun violence and other violent crimes that seem to be on the rise. But we've got 550 plus men and women in that blue uniform that are ready to, at a moment's notice, go in front of those that could very easily decide that today's the day they take them out. Because we've got a 6-year-old that we need to get out of there and perform some life-saving techniques and measures with to save her life. And so, you know, I can't show you that video because frankly, it's just a video that even some of the most seasoned law enforcement officers have walked into the room as we've been digesting it and using it as for our investigation. And some of the most seasoned law enforcement officers in the world who have seen everything turn and walk out of the room. And, you know, those are the moments that I want to say, yes, we're an organization, a city that, you know, we've got to recruit well, we've got to train well, we've got to, you know, make sure that we have policies that are in conformance with professional policing in the 21st century. We've got to be in the right mindset. You know, it's a difficult world to go convince somebody entering their career that this is where they want to jump in. And so it has become difficult. And we're still as committed as we've ever been to hiring the best talent. Again, you talked to some of the best of them, best of the best tonight. But there's, you know, there's 525 others just like them that probably wear our patch and would be at any of our houses tonight at 2 in the morning if all of a sudden we needed it. So I know I went on a little bit more than typical on that, but that's where we are with recruitment in both police and fire. And I'll stop there.
Okay, no, thank you very much for honoring our wonderful law enforcement agency and for the answer about the need and filling of recruitment, and obviously the honor and the integrity and the defense of the innocent and keeping us safe, right? I mean, you know, I think it is evident, right? Notwithstanding that these are isolated incidents, there is a systemic, you know, issue that's come to light that we need to continue to push for greater understanding, for stronger allyship. You know, we talked about that at length last month, and that's not to take anything away from the leadership and the honor and the risk-taking, the life at risk-taking that we have with our wonderful law enforcement leaders here on the call and elsewhere.
Yeah, let me take that one step further too, Colleen, and just say, I know I've talked before at these meetings. You know, we are committed as an organization to be leaders in the world of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And, you know, we've started and are well on our way to some pretty substantial self-assessment, self-awareness as to how we, as Fort Lauderdale leaders, champion in that space, that DEI space. And not only is it important to me that our organization is a champion of those values, but it's also important that we get that right in our police department and fire department, because you're right, there are issues that have spanned generations, decades, that you know, we've got to be brave enough to talk about it, brave enough to have bold conversations, but also be brave enough to be leaders to change. And so you'll find that in our organization and in those departments.
Wonderful. And a longer conversation. As always, Chris, so wonderful, so comprehensive, so well stated across the board. We really appreciate your time. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And I'm going to put up the screen. Any other questions for Chris? If we could show Chris some love in the chat, as well as our wonderful law enforcement leaders here. Just want to show the remaining agenda items that we have. Speaking of which, nice transition into the next topic, which is, we had the wonderful Nick Harris present last month on inclusion. The board met and we have our own inclusivity statement. The chair of that committee is Michael Albetta, District 2 rep. He is going to read that to you. And then we have our favorite neighborhood round robin 60-second speeches, which we can't wait to share with you. So Michael, I'm going to turn things over to you if you want to make the announcement about this statement and then read it for everyone for their benefit.
Sure. Does everybody hear me? Hello? Okay,
Yeah.
terrific. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I just
Yeah.
wanted to, I'm having some technical difficulties with my my system here. So the statement that the committee adopted and presented to the board, and the board voted in favor of it, it says the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Association is committed to cultivating and preserving a community of inclusion, correctness, and equity. We can grow and learn better together with a diverse team membership. The collective sum of individual differences, life experiences, knowledge, innovation, self-expression, and talent that our members invest in their communities represent not only part of our mission, but our reputation and achievements as well. We welcome the unique contributions that each member brings in terms of their education, opinions, culture, ethnicity, race, sex, gender identity and expression, nation of origin, age, languages spoken, veteran status, color, religion, disability, sexual orientation, and beliefs. In turn, our inclusive membership inspires us to try new things, speak openly, and to be bold. With regards to the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Associations member race, we acknowledge and commit to racial inclusion that people from diverse racial and ethnic backgrounds have rich culture, social, and intellectual traditions that differ from mainstream traditions. Our differences bring us together in ways that help the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Association stand out. Our inclusiveness empowers all of us to connect, belong, and grow in Fort Lauderdale. And I just want to say, timing is correct. I believe you all saw the memo, the message from the mayor just recently about inclusiveness. And I say that our timing is correct and we hit the nail right on the head. Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleen, thank you so much for allowing the committee to present this statement. I greatly appreciate it.
Bravo to you, Michael, and the entire committee, and for this position being taken by the council. It's great. Wonderful. So bravo, congratulations to you, Michael, and your leadership.
No, thank you. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you to the entire board.
Absolutely.
We stand together and united. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, now it's time for a little entertainment. I am going to offer this up to you, Anne, first, because you know ladies first, right? You can make the choice whether you want to go first or John, but let me just explain what this is first for those that don't understand. Neighborhood Round Robins is a part of our agenda that we try to do every month. For those brave enough to take this on, where each person spends 60 seconds talking about their neighborhood, what makes it exciting, what makes it inviting, what's special about it, what special aspects of history does it have that's worth sharing. And we have had some amazingly entertaining 60-second speeches. Kelly Manning, good to see you, just by the way. So Anne, would you like to go first or would you like to go second? And my chat brethren, Mary and Jim and Melinda, would you mind getting your stopwatches out? Because we're going to remind you at 30 seconds, you're halfway through. So Anne, do you want to go first or second?
I'll go first, and I hope I can talk fast enough. Just one correction. My name has one L in it. Hilmer. Okay.
That time does not. You tell us when so we can start the clock. Tell us when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
Go. Am I going?
Wait a second. All right.
Tell me when.
I'm going to tell you when. All right.
Okay.
Counting down from 3, 2, 1, go.
Idlewild was platted in 1921, built on coral rock and landfill. It is 6 blocks long, bound by Las Olas Boulevard, the Intercoastal, and Riviera Isle. Merle Fogg Park at the entrance honors one of Fort Lauderdale's first pilots and marks the 1920s Merle Fogg Airfield along Point Siena Drive. We have 110 homes set in a 1-mile loop, a great place to walk and bike. Our association is 95 years old. In 1925, well-known architect Francis Abreu designed 10 homes in Idlewild, most of which still remain. Two homes were the site of the party scene and where the boys are, and the home and flight of the navigator. The warranty deeds of 1925 say no horses, cows, cattle, hogs, or poultry may be kept or raised. If you ride the ICW, the Intercoastal Tour boats, you will hear many stories about Idlewild, most of which have been made up by the boat captains. We have the first little library in Fort Lauderdale. Our association meets September to June and takes an active role in city development, traffic, and infrastructure issues. Thank you.
That was perfect. That was a minute on the nose. Bravo, Anne. That was
Thank you. Thank you.
really well done. And now we all want to move and be near you. That was fabulous. Thank
Thanks.
you. And we'll get your name spelled right for the official posting. So John has a slide deck. So
how can I compete? How can I compete with Ann Hilmer? This is not fair. Welcome to
Good
the
luck,
Central
John.
Beach.
Good luck. You're on.
Welcome to the Central Beach Alliance. You can start clocking.
Wait. John, you got to count it down. Tell us when. Are you starting now?
I am starting now.
Okay,
Central
go.
Beach Alliance, welcome. Again, we can be a little hard to get to if you catch the bridge, but just drive east towards the ocean in A1A. But there are times when you don't want to be here, particularly during hurricanes and the evacuation routes. But we always have plenty of parking in our new parking lot with the fancy lighting structure around it. You can play in our new parks. This is a loop. The new water fountain is working and kids are playing in it already. You can exercise with thousands of people at the Fort Lauderdale Marathon and other athletic events on the beach. You can get hitched on the beach if you're not already married. You can also learn a little history about Fort Lauderdale. We have the Indian Haulover, where the Indians traded with the soldiers. You can take a scenic boat ride and see Ann's house from the water. Or you can entertain your Council Fort Lauderdale Civic Association friends on your own boat. Or you can just sit in the beach and relax. Or just sit and watch the sunset over the Intercoastal Waterway. See you on the beach, your neighbors of the Central Beach Alliance.
Yay, John. So you went a little bit over 107, just saying. That was excellent. Congratulations.
Listen, Ann got extra time at the beginning. Oh, when do I start? I mean, it was like being at the city council meeting. I need more time.
No, that was so good. And you know, I think you're the first person to share visual aids. Stephen Barbie did. You guys showed a map, and I think that was the first time, but we haven't actually had a proper deck, a proper slide deck.
I left off the slide of the new sex shop on the beach. I wanted to include it, but I thought I should drop it off.
Okay, we're being recorded, so we're not gonna go any further than that. So everyone, could you please applaud Ann and John for their excellent presentations this month. That was excellent. And please, anyone that would like to sign up next month, and we are welcome to have repeat recycled offenders do this again, right? I think this is so important for us to learn about each other, and frankly, just terribly entertaining. So it's my favorite part of the meetings, I have to say. Okay, so back to the final pieces of business. I apologize. We have our wonderful treasurer, and Melinda Balker will go over the treasurer's report. We'll review and accept last month's meeting minutes, and then we are done for the night, for the month, and we'll see you next time. So Melinda, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Thank you so much, as always, for your wonderful tracking and keeping us fiscally responsible. Over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Colleen. Okay, so I'm going to try to quickly share on a new computer. So just bear with me. Oops, okay. And if I can't share the exact report, oh, here we go. Okay, so just a quick update. Hopefully everyone can see that. So I'm going to do this report as of today, April 13. The last time I reported to the membership was March 9. And you'll see our account balances here, $12,060 at SunTrust, the PayPal at $1,786. Total in all accounts, we're approaching 14,000. We've got $13,846.01. We continue through Mary's efforts to have people do their renewals, which is great. We've had 5 checks come in the mail since I last reported a month ago. And you'll see the neighborhoods here. Thank you very much. We've also got 2 PayPal payments, which has been a primary way people have been renewing. And again, that's $50. I'll quickly just share here, going down the page, the membership log, which is just for this fiscal year end that started April 1st. We are now at 38 paid members, with only small reminder to 3 members, Harbor Inlet, River Garden, Sweeting, and Coral Ridge Country Club Estates, to get your membership application into Mary. And so with that, I will take any comments or questions.
That's wonderful, Melinda. I mean, you do such a great job every month. I don't think anyone has ever asked you a question. So fantastic report. Thank you for the update, and thank you to all the members that have joined and renewed. We really appreciate it. Okay, so last item of business is to review and approve last month's general meeting minutes. Any discussion before we call for a vote, or a motion, I should say? All right, can I hear a motion? Would anyone like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes. Sorry about that.
No. So Jim and Mary seconded. Anyone opposed? Okay, great. Minutes pass. Our next board meeting is April 26th. Our next general meeting, this meeting, is May 11th. We look forward to seeing you all then. Before we leave, would anyone like to sign up for the 60-second elevator pitches for next month? Anyone brave enough, Dr. Getz? You can be shy right now and email us later. We'd love to hear.
Okay, I'll do it.
Awesome. Okay, great. All right, so we'll get someone to join you, to be brave enough. And I think Eric was supposed to go tonight, but he had something else, so we'll probably ask him. All right, with that, we'll close. Everyone can say goodbye and share good thoughts. We wish you safety and health and happiness until we see you again. Happy spring, everybody.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for a good meeting, Colleen.
Thank you, my love. Team effort.
Everything was great.
Always with you there. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.